Hello, hello. I hope you're having a really great day. And today we are going to talk about what mask and what lenses are you seeing your body through. And that might sound a little bit like confusing. What are you talking about? Well, we all have layers in our story with body image that maybe we're struggling with. And what's important is if you can identify your layers, then you're going to feel less trapped by the whole body positivity is for everybody else, but it can't be for me. So again, I haven't introduced myself yet. My name is Tracy Brown. I'm a somatic dietitian and a tuned eating specialist. And today I have a probably silly little exercise for you, but I want you to understand that this is where the layers of stuff come from. So I've got some props here that we're going to play with, and I want you to be thinking about what your lenses are. And just a little backstory to this. This exercise came about because I was remembering when I recognized that fat phobia was a thing for me back in I don't know. I was 20. So 21 years ago, basically. And I didn't know it was a thing that we get beliefs about body from somewhere. I just thought that that's how we are and how everybody thinks, and that's just truth. Until I started really thinking about where did this belief come from and what were the layers of it. Could I get some freedom from my own body self-hatred? And then, first it was I can be kind to everybody else but not to me, but still kind of some harboring some judgment about what I believed it meant to look a certain way, and how responsible we were for that. So that's a layer, and that's a edge, so sometimes our first beliefs around our body, come from diet culture. So this is where I'm going to play around with you all a little bit. So bear with me. I got to use one hand. I forgot to get my little thing out. Okay. So as you see, these funny looking little glasses, this might be your first, I call these the diet culture, hypnotism glasses. It's oh, everybody's a certain size because of their own willpower belief system, right? So you might be wearing these glasses. And maybe these are the only glasses that you have. And once you recognize, wait a minute, that's conditioning. Has that been my experience? Is that everyone's experience, that they are in total control of what their body size is, their height, their weight, and everything else, and how their body responds to stress? Are they in total control of that? And once you recognize believing that's true as a conditioning, you can take those off and start to see things with your own reasoning, your own eyes, your own conscience, your own values. All right. So maybe this is the only layer you have. If this is the only layer you have, that's good. This journey will be a little maybe easier for you. But most of us have layers of how we are as a person with a body that are beyond just like this. If it was just diet culture, I think a lot of us would be freer faster. Okay, but I also want us to think about our very beginnings. All right, so our very beginnings, we got these pink glasses of relationship. And if you were a person who in any kind of way, physically, emotionally, mentally, were not attuned to, back from the jump, from the get-go, you're going to have a body layer inside you that's going to feel on edge to not getting your needs met. And we can't communicate that verbally, but we communicate that through the body. So there is basically a highway of body stuff in us that we're going to feel the internal charge to. Okay, so this is a relational charge of I don't know if I'm good enough, if I'm wanted, if my needs matter. So you might have that layer on, okay? And then we might have a layer on after that. And any time in your life, whether it's complex trauma or developmental trauma or a shock trauma of any kind, of things like this. Okay, so you can see how this is a little jungle theme here of our animal physiology of fight, flight, freeze, or please. We do things to survive our situation, right? And I know these things are silly, but I want you to think about, if you layer all these up, these are the things that inside your body that our mind wants to make meaning out of, okay? So if you've got not feeling relationally I'm attuned to, and there's something here for me and what I'm attached to. You might have that layer of heaviness or any kind of sensations in your system. You might have that. And then if you've had overwhelming circumstances also happen on top of that, other traumas, that's going to feel like another layer of charge, body felt sensation in your system. Okay? And then, I want to talk about other things, like the things that we bump into in life. And it's not just all about like something bad that has happened. It's just, as we get to more like our adolescent and then on in adult years, and we're just dealing with ways of feeling like we belong as a young or older adult. It's like, relationally, okay, so again, where do I fit? And this is not even just like diet culture stuff, right? This is like, am I good enough in my job? Am I wanted here because of my just in my community? Like, where do I fit? And oftentimes, so imagine layering. So I'm going to show you this thing here. Imagine all these layers. You're wearing these glasses. And all those layers. We sometimes think if I just like stop dieting and believe in health at every size, this will make the glasses come off and I have nothing that's influencing how I feel or see about my body. But the truth is, most of us have this layer of like, am I good enough at my job? Am I good enough personality? Am I good enough like how I take care of my health? All these like judgments. That's all charge in your system. And then you might have the unfortunate rough and tumble sometimes of life where it's not fair, where you've gone through circumstances that have made you feel not safe. And then if you've got this layer of like, I don't trust anybody because people let me down and they're not there for me and they don't really hear me and understand me. And so I'm going to shrink up my life energy to just survive all this. If you've got all that running, these layers, that's why body image stuff can feel so hard. Like, it's like, I can't tolerate any more weight on me. I hear that from a lot from people. And they're not really talking about their physical movement or function. It's an internal thing. And when you're having all that, these are the layers that you're bumping up against. And people don't always recognize that's what you're struggling with. It's not because you don't have enough intuitive eating principles or health at every size information. It's that we don't understand that these other layers aren't just mental constructs. They're physiological. And so and the people are like, okay, so what do I do? At first, your assignment after watching this video is to start to get really clear about what these different aspects of your life feel like in your body. If you can feel it in your jaw, your head, your neck, your chest, your belly, and learn to start being with those sensations and catch it before it turns into like, I feel fat, I'm too much, I just need to go get a surgery, I just need to go back on XYZ diet, I just need to take diet pills again, I need to go exercise again. Or it could be, I feel stuck because I'm not going to go back to diets, I'm not going to do all that stuff, but I still hate myself. What you're probably bumping up against is this layer here. There's just this feeling of like, being me is not okay. And we need to see like, you inherently didn't do anything. You were just born. And just because maybe something didn't feel right or not just feel it wasn't right, it doesn't mean that like something's inherently broken or wrong or bad about you and you deserve to exist. And it's safe to exist. And that may be your work here, is recognizing that instead of blaming my body for its size about existing, taking up space, what if I just like, wait a minute, regardless of what my size is, I'm here for a reason. And that I'm here for some reason, so I've got to exist. And how can I feel safe to do that? That's your work, is feeling safe enough in your own self and relatively safe enough in your own circumstances. And to be able to orient to where that is true, it's going to take off this last layer of like, my body's not okay. And instead of my body's not okay, it's like, what hasn't felt okay, and stop blaming yourself. Okay, I've got a little comment here I'd like to answer. So I've got a comment here. It's like, wow, I needed this. I think that's what my dietitian was talking about this week. This helps so much. Thank you for the visual. Yeah, I got inspired. I was remembering, like, it was so clear. Again, 20-something years ago, I was, like, doing my normal kind of clawing and scratching, trying to out of my way in recovery. And I just had this visuals that felt like something was falling from my eyes. And it was like these layers of stuff that, like, everything just became so clear of all the layers in which why I felt this way about my body, why I felt this way about other people's bodies, all the projections. And if we can visually start to see, like, all these different things, especially if you're somebody watching this and you're like, I get it. I get that, like bigger bellies and cellulite and even if my body isn't working the way I want it to, it doesn't mean that I'm hateable. That body hatred, that hatred of my own physiology, that hatred of what's happening, I'm struggling with compassion because probably you've got some layers here of feeling like, instead of like, what's wrong with the situation? What am I missing here? The thing is, it's not about something you did wrong. Maybe it could be, I've got these layers and what was missing that I didn't get to feel like I could be back in the world and be safe. That's what's going on. And it's just easier to hate ourselves. It's just a solution that we put on to make some sense of, like, well, since I've done everything the best I could, I try to be perfect, do everything right, and, you know, I still can't make everybody happy. I still can't feel good inside. I still can't seem to get my food right. There must be something wrong with me. And it could be that, yeah, it's not that something's wrong with you. Is that something wasn't right in the situation. So we all know what that is with diet culture. Diet culture is the problem, not your body, and not your body's ability to be trusted. Now, I know some people will say, like, well, what if I've got, like, stomach issues or I've got autoimmune things? Those are signals from your body from, like, probably too much of all of this stuff in your life that has overwhelmed your system. And your system's going to need some time to, like, just for you to be as slow as possible and take off the self-responsibility of, like, you've got to fix it all and fix everybody else as well. So I hope this video, I hope these visuals were helpful for you today, just to kind of round out this week around body image, because it's so much deeper. You know, it's so much deeper than just, like, you know, all bodies do fit, and there's no right or wrong body with the way it looks. And we know that's true. And I know it takes some time to be okay with a body that's maybe different or bigger than we thought it would be. But remember, you can grieve this. You can grieve the diet cultural programming that says you should only be a certain weight to be safe or acceptable or lovable. We can take that lens off, and we can grieve that we've had that lens on for so long that took so much of our life, you know. So I have a question here. Is there a healthy way to push past restriction that is being... Okay, can you... I'm sorry, I think you've auto-corrected. I'm not quite sure what your question is here. I would love to answer that question, like, and if you can restate that, or if you just want to do it later and I'll come back to it, just tag me. But so if you're asking about how to push past, like, dieting or restricting, it's some of these layers maybe. It's saying, you know what, it's not my... Okay. Is there a healthy way to push past restriction that has been clouded by all this? Well, sometimes it's making a decision, like, how can I support this system that's been neglected for so long? You know, so there might be a slowing down of, like, you know, the questions are like, well, what do I need? If this was neglected, if my needs weren't attuned to, and I hate myself because of that, what would happen if you didn't? And say, like, you know what? My needs weren't attuned to enough. And so what can I do right now to do that for myself? And it could be, you know, sometimes the most loving thing you can do is plan out how you're going to take care of yourself. Sometimes it is like, I'm going to eat 3 meals and 2 or 3 snacks a day, even if it doesn't feel okay based on diet culture conditioning, maybe based on if I might start to feel I might have to accept it, like I might feel some sensations as I don't restrict. That doesn't mean I'm doing something wrong with my food. It could just mean that I'm feeling sensations that I don't really know what it's about, or maybe I do, and I don't want to abandon myself. And I might need to slow down, do more self-care as I eat, and follow this new way of being. So maybe that answers your question. I'm not sure, but let me know if it did or didn't. So it's really important that if you are recognizing, hey, I'm recapitulating not meeting my needs, just like maybe I experienced in some kind of way, is that opposite action is still an antidote. It's still going to be like, maybe your the thing that you don't want to do the most, which is slow down and feed yourself, because you think, well, I don't deserve it because of my weight. Okay, that's all conditioning. You deserve to get your needs met and to exist. And when you do that, you're going to feel some internal sensations of that feeling, like when you disobey that, like, oh, something bad's going to happen. That may have happened from the past, but right now, current, this moment, that meal is at the truth. And so that's what you're going to be doing meal after meal after meal. If the opposite is true, if you're somebody who is like struggling with, and this goes back to lots of videos I've talked about, if you're eating to ground yourself, if you're eating to feel something different than what you're feeling, and that ends up pushing you past comfortable fullness, that's okay. Let that be okay. And it's still okay. It's like, I know that I'm doing this. And then and remember that you might have a part of yourself that gets really scared when you don't do it. We need to tend to that scared. You can still eat, but I'm highly encouraging you to not run away from the fear, but instead give yourself an antidote to the fear, which is safety, and see what would happen if you need to eat as much as you feel like you need to feel grounded, or to feel like this is the only time in my day that I'm going to get what I want, so I'm going to eat until I can't eat anymore. I see that happen a lot. And so you're seeing here that your way of functioning in the world to be an overfunctioner, you're wearing that lens. I need to be overly responsible and, to feel like I can be safe here. We want to take off that lens as well. So I hope this video was nourishing for you. I hope that you took some notes. I hope that you watch this again and again. You might need to watch this 3 or 4 times to take the nuggets that you need out of it and to start to work through the layers. Now, if you need more detailed help with that, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to help you walk through the different aspects of just generally knowing accurate signals of hunger and fullness, but also how these different lenses and the physiology that creates, how that's impacting your accurate signals as well. So I'm happy to help you with that. I can do that individually with you. If you're interested in the Peace with Food Eating group that addresses these things in a kind of a group self-study manner, you're welcome to ask me about those things as well, and I can direct you in the right direction. So thank you all so much for watching. Next week we're going to talk about stress. We're going to talk very generally about how stress impacts our eating and our physiology. And the reason I was late, I'm kind of giving you a little bit of a teaser because I am going to be doing kind of a mini podcast series with a person who just knows this physiology stuff and the different systems inside out. And we're going to have discussions around how stress physiology and the vagus impact our HPA system, our thyroid, our gut health, our brain, and how all that impacts obviously our health. And these things are really, really important to me. These are things that we talk about a lot in our individual sessions. But she and I are just going to have this really conversational way of talking about how to know how much your food's really even impacting what you're feeling health-wise, and how much of what we can do and what we can't do, and what at the end of the day it's still going to be about working on our widening our window of tolerance. That way our health has a chance to flow and our body has a chance to heal. And it's something that sometimes food is a linchpin in that, and sometimes it's not. And all the doctor hopping to experts in the world is not going to fix. We've got to really, but we need to know, like, what is what. And so those little mini podcasts are going to be answering a lot of those questions that maybe a lot of you have. So if you do have some questions about any of those things, you can put it in this thread, because we haven't started recording those podcasts yet. We're going to start in December, and those will, portions of those will be released live and like everywhere, and portions will be just in the membership site. So they're going to be pretty long, and then portions will be out here. So that's what's coming up too. So if you have some things that you'd like to be discussing or hearing about, and you have a specific health concern that you're like, yes, it's kind of resolving, but I think something is missing, then these are going to be the recordings that you're going to want to pay attention to. So thank you all so much for watching. I will be back with you next week to kind of start to talk about those topics and kind of expand the conversation. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will talk to you real soon. Take care, and if this was encouraging for you or helpful for you, please let your friends know about it as well. I'd really appreciate it. So thanks so much for watching, and take care.